The new 1370 The Buzz. The Buzz.
That was There Goes My Gun, and it was actually a request by my guest caller who is on the line right now. His name is Randall K. Milholland, and he is the author and the cartoonist behind Something Positive. And he is on the line right now being fabulous. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm fine. I just got back from a convention this morning, so I'm a little spacey.
How's your arm?
My arm is fine. It wasn't actually that busy. It was a smaller convention in San Antonio, but all the readers who showed up were nice. There was a one kid I kind of wanted to put through a wall, but everyone who reads my comic was nice, so I don't really care.
Oh, so this kid doesn't read your comic?
No, there was a small child who showed up at the convention, and I do a comic not for children.
Right.
And I sell a plush of one of my characters, and the father brought up the idea. I guess his daughter wanted it, and he asked if my comic was child-friendly, and I said, no, it's not. The language is PG-13 at best, but I wouldn't let a 6-year-old girl read my comic, or a 6-year-old boy. And at which point she looked at me very sternly and told me that I'm ugly and I needed to die.
Oh, my gosh.
It was a phenomenal weekend.
I really hope that you have a child like that somewhere in the future storylines.
I just don't see the point, but the father just kind of shrugged, that's my kid, hey, what, really? That's your reaction, huh? Okay, that's awesome parenting.
Why the title Something Positive?
Well, when I started working on the comic, it was July of 2001. I had been unemployed for a few months. I was in between acting gigs. I was newly single, and I was depressed. And my friend Clarine Harp, who is a voice actress for Funimation, I was kind of venting to her about how things are going, and her response was, very caring, why don't you shut the F up and do something positive with your life for once? And I was working on this comic idea, and I was like, that's the perfect title, Something Positive. So I told her, I will. In December, I'll have something positive for you, which immediately put her on her guard.
Oh, no.
And when I started the comic, it was Wednesday, December 19th, 2001. I got home from my day job around 3 in the afternoon, and I posted the comic. I emailed 200 people I knew from theater gigs and previous jobs to kind of get word of mouth out. And then I emailed Clarine separately with the link, and I said, here's something positive for you, and I cannot say on the air what she replied with.
Oh, no. Now, is she the inspiration to any of the characters? And is she okay with that?
She was the inspiration for the character Aubrey.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. Aubrey is a caricature of her, because Clarine is, obviously a lot deeper than that. And the characters have, Aubrey and Clarine have kind of parted ways in how they handle things. But, she was very pixie-ish and always had a scheme, an idea, and a plan. And it just made kind of the perfect foil for a main character of a comic who did his best to be straight-faced all the time and took himself way too seriously.
Now, happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you, yeah. It was 10 years this past December, and about a week ago was the 8th year anniversary of self-employment. So, woo.
Which kind of brings me into my next question, which is, now, your fans have supported you over the last 8 to 10 years, but what are some of the things that they've done to really show their support?
Just honestly reading the comic, passing it around, I've had a lot of readers who buy merch when they can, show up at conventions, and that's been pretty much it. When I became self-employed, it was actually kind of not really intentional. I was working a day job in 2004, and I was working 40 hours a week. I was doing probably 30 or so hours a week on the comic itself, and then doing acting gigs, and it was taking away time. And people were complaining because I wasn't updating as often, or there were countless errors, all the time. But it wasn't my job, and so one day I kind of said, if you don't like it, put your money where your mouth is. I make $24,000 a year, pay my salary, and I quit my job. If not, just shut up and enjoy a free comic. And in 2 hours, I had $4,000, and in 2 weeks, I had my year's salary, so I quit my job. And that was pretty much, and they spread the word to many people. Neil Gaiman mentioned it on his blog, and actually mentioned it in the Harvey Award speech that year, which just blew my mind.
Could you speak?
I was stunned. I actually met him when I was 17, and that was probably more of a a flabbergasting moment. It was when he was touring around after Brief Lives had completed in Sandman, and he was at a local comic shop, and I was 17, and that he was the first celebrity I ever met, and which he was the perfect person to meet because he's very kind, but I'm pretty sure if I could travel back in time and watch myself, I would just be humiliated.
Did you fangirl out?
No, I actually managed not to. I went with my friend Heather, and it was a comic shop in Hearst, Texas called Heroes. They're not there anymore. And Heather decided, we were the second or third person to come in. The first person had already shown up and left. It was 6 o'clock. It was just empty because I guess people were still getting off work. And Heather told me she was going first because she heard Tori name a CD that she wanted him to sign because he was mentioned in the liner notes. And I just kind of walked up very nervously, and I handed him the first issue of the Brief Life storyline, and he was very polite, and then there was no one there, so he just said that we could stick around and talk to him for a little bit longer, so we did until more people started walking in, and at which point we excused ourselves because we didn't hold the line up, but I guess he talked to us for about 20 or so minutes, and I maintained composure until I got into my car, at which point I just pretty much lost it.
Now, you update Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You are a 5 times a week updater, which cannot be easy. So what do you do on those days where nothing is coming to mind?
Well, I will be honest, some days I don't. I have had days where I've had a comic, and I'm about to post it, and when I read it, or if I have someone I trust read it, and they're like, this isn't really good, or it kind of conflicts with something you've already done, or if I just think it's sloppy and I'm not proud of it, I will skip a day, and I'll just post, no, look, I'll try to get something up later. Or I'm at the point where I'd rather have something quality up that I'm proud of. That's why I thought they were trying to do 7 days a week a year ago. But sometimes what you have to do is if you're working on a comic and it's just not coming to you, you skip ahead to something else. You work on the scripts for the storyline that's coming next. Or you just do something else you need to do, like package store orders, run errands, because that also usually it's just you're trying too hard, you're focusing too much on something, and it'll come to you. I've had scripts that I have hammered out for 14 hours, and then I sit for 2 more or 3 more hours at the computer, and I'm just about to post it. I'm not happy about it, and then I suddenly realize, oh wait, there's a much better punchline to this, and I rewrite the entire comic in 10 minutes, which is a little infuriating because I realize I just wasted an entire day on one comic, but it's just how it works. It writes itself how it wants to, and the harder you try to force it, the more it's going to resist. It's like a little petulant kid. You can't just, drag it out. You can, but it's just going to be miserable for everybody around.
Kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming, swearing to everyone that you're not his real daddy, and why are you being put in the van. Yeah, that stuff.
Now, do you ever ink something and then think to yourself, like, you're done, you're like, I'm done, and then you look at it and you're like, oh, crap, this is going to get me disowned or arrested?
No, actually, my parents don't really care about. My mom doesn't read the comic at all. She doesn't like comics.
Oh, okay.
My father reads it occasionally. He doesn't like that I swear. My parents are very quick to point out that there was no swearing in our house. My sister reads it, and she just kind of shrugs, like, whatever, it's my little brother, I don't care. Arrested, I have done a couple of things that, there's only one storyline I can think of that I ever thought this might be going way too far, and I still did it, and that was, I do a side project called Super Stupor, and I do books. I do like one issue a year, and the comic books are new material, not on the website. And issue 4 has a B plot where one of the characters named Boy Toy, who's basically Pinocchio as a superhero. He was created to be every child's superhero sidekick pal, basically Chucky but not evil. And he was the prototype, but he was the only one that worked. So 40 years later, he finds out the government is taking all of his quote-unquote brothers, the unused dolls, and they have learned that it's basically a perfect substitute to help pedophiles curb their needs. Wow.
I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, it's a little upsetting, and it's one of those things that the more I'm drawing it, this might be going far. I didn't get arrested, because the beauty of being in America, freedom of speech, I'm not doing any threats on people. I'm not trying to incite people to kill anyone, so. But I've had some strips where I thought, when I post this, I will get nothing but hate mail. And those are the ones that no one cares. You get no reaction. Everyone reads them and kind of shrugs their shoulders, or they'll laugh a little bit and move on. And then you'll post some strip that seems completely innocuous, and it will just be burning hate and rage pouring into your email over something you never considered. Like I mentioned, one of my characters was circumcised, and I had this was 2003 or 2004, and my mailbox filled with people infuriated that I was promoting circumcision, which I wasn't. I was just mentioning this as part of a punchline. This character had been circumcised.
Now,
and
I like at the bottom you have things that say, you have like a little thing like, oh, my day sucked today, or this, that, and the next thing. And then one of the things was, I always like how nervous people get when Davin's being nice.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, like, yeah, people, you do something awful or evil, and people are like, meh, but then he's, like, being nice, and they're like, oh, gosh, what's going to happen? Is he going to die? Who's going to die?
Oh, yeah. It's funny because a lot of people go, well, you know, the characters are never happy, but the fact of the matter is, my main character, Davin, has been pretty happy the last few years. I think, especially from the first few years of my comic, people expect the worst to happen, but, you know, that's part of life. You know, bad things are going to happen to your characters, because otherwise it's not interesting. If everything is happy and friendly, it becomes a comic like Love Is, or Family Circus, which I'm sure they fill their audience with glee, but to me, I find them just infinitely boring.
Now, can you see yourself being friends with these characters?
Can I say what?
Can you see yourself being friends with these characters?
Oh, no. My characters are horrible. They're awful people. I don't even deny it. It's actually one of the things where there were a lot of, like, I think it's a very valid criticism of my comic, but one of the ones that always kind of strikes me as weird is the assumption that I think how my characters act are how people should act. Which is not the case. In the real world, my two female leads would both be in multiple prison sentences for assault. But it's a comic. It's meant to be funny. I mean, yeah, sometimes you put your own opinions in or your own views, but my primary goal is humor. And it's always a little weird when, like, I'm pretty sure of all the characters, if I met them, if they were turned into real people, the one I'd want to interact with least would be Davin, because, well, he's not bad now, but the early years, he was such a
miserable guy.
Miserable, very passive aggressive. I mean, yeah, he was very snarky, and he was very good at criticizing, but he never did anything. He was that guy that he hangs out with everyone, and everyone knows him. He knows everyone's business. And he's a good friend, but at the same time, he's a good friend who doesn't really help you very much. But as he's gotten older, he has mellowed, because I'm trying to age the characters real time. I'm really selling this comic to people who've never heard this comic to Reddit. There's an adorable pink cat in it, if that helps.
Choo-choo bear, choo-choo bear, choo-choo bear.
And scary trees.
No, my last question was going to be about Choo-choo Bear.
Yeah.
I really have to know, because when I try to explain to people what wherefore Choo-Choo Bear is, it's pink, viscous cat pudding. And so I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I read the whole entire archive, but I don't know, like, really where he's from or what your
in the second month of the comic. My character PG and my other character Jim were at an animal shelter, and they found this hairless cat that was just oozing because he'd had so much cancer and so much radiation treatment. His bones were soft, and so he's a pudding cat.
Pudding cat.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, he's a pudding cat who is very affectionate to people he loves. And he can travel the drains and steal things from people. And it's, you know, I have the plushes I bring to conventions, and I think that's probably the most popular thing to walk up and, like, what's the story with your pink kitty? He's a cancer kitty, and that just always makes people just happy. So yeah, actually it does. Like, a lot of people kind of laugh at the idea that there's this radioactive cat who just slithers around, but
he's a survivor.
He is. He is the ultimate survivor. He's now had children. He's protective of his homestead and his owners. He is probably one of the most honorable characters in my comic because he knows who he loves and he's always there for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you.
You take care, and I don't think you're ugly or that you have to die.
Oh, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.